Hi, it's Lucy Griffiths, and I'm talking about bullying. As a child and also as an adult, I've been bullied in various situations, and it can be really difficult to overcome. So for me, when I was at school, I was at boarding school, so I didn't have a support network around me. I could write to my parents, but I didn't really have anyone to say, so-and-so's bullying me, and I didn't know how to stop it. And to be honest, I've kind of carried that my entire life. But there are ways for you to overcome the stories of bullying either at school or in the workplace, and overcome those and really feel more confident in everything you do. Because you don't have to replay the scripts of being bullied as a kid or being bullied in the workplace. If you like this video, I would love you to subscribe. I share lots of confidence tips, marketing tips, and ways to really build your life and your business so you feel more confident in everything you do. Hi, it's Lucy and welcome back. I was bullied from the age of 11 to the age of 16, but it really was worse when I was about the age of 11, 12, 13. And I was dealing with a girl who nowadays, if she was kind of in the main school system, she would probably be either excluded or she'd be sent to a special school because she did have quite a few issues going on. But at the time, it was 30 years ago, and there really weren't those kind of implementations and systems in place. And so instead, her parents, who had this difficult child, packed her off to boarding school and thought, oh, it's a great idea to let 11-year-old kids deal with her instead of her parents. And so, I arrived at this school, and it just happened that we were in a boarding house, and it happened that there were 7 of us in our year staying in the boarding house. And so it meant that there was always one of us as the outsider. So, and it was either me or her. Basically me because I was in a dormitory with older girls. So I was just by pure coincidence. Or her because she was slightly different. So it was either me or her being the odd one out. And she resented me. I was the person that she took all her vent and venom out on me. And so she would do things like she pulled me from the top bunk of a bunk bed, so like 2 meters high. She pulled me by my feet onto the ground, and literally I was lying on my back. I couldn't move. She would hit me, she would strangle me, she'd throw me across the room, she'd punch me. It was a lot of stuff, and particularly as an 11-year-old, and I didn't really know how to deal with it. But what I say to you is, number one, get help, talk about it. So go and tell someone. At the time, I didn't tell anyone. I told my parents, but my parents lived in Cyprus and I was in Britain. So, it was a long way. It was a 4-hour flight away. But tell someone, tell a teacher, tell someone. So you set a line in the sand to say, this is not acceptable. And I was so bullied that I really didn't have the confidence even to set those parameters to say, you can't do this to me. I didn't ever say to her, stop this, you can't do this to me, this is not acceptable. I just allowed it to continue. So I'd kind of hide away from her. And every time that we would go to the corner shop and she would buy sweets which had monosodium glutamate in. So E102 is a food colouring. And so every time she bought sweets with like E102 food colouring in, she would basically then change personality, and she would go from being fairly okay to being like this sort of really intense, raging, angry, vicious person who would do this stuff to me. And sometimes she was bored, she would actually take these sweets on purpose because she knew that she could get away with it and she knew that she could bully me. So it was kind of like she did it for attention, but she also did it as a sort of sadistic pleasure. And so having to live and go to school with someone and share a dormitory with somebody who is like this all the time was treading on eggshells. And so I spent many, many years treading on eggshells, being scared to really have any conflict with anyone, because I didn't know what to say, and I didn't know how to say anything without really being in a situation where if I said anything, they wouldn't like me anymore, or they might retaliate in some way. So it's really important for you to start saying no to people and start having small arguments with someone. So where you actually stand your ground. So it doesn't have to be with the bully, but just so you practice being in that space where you stand up for yourself. Because actually, if you suppress all of those emotions for a long period of time, it just builds up and you become angry. And so, you know, for me, it got to like during my pregnancy and the birth afterwards where the hormones are raging and I was just angry. And so, you know, it's one of those things where if you don't deal with it, your anger will come up in certain ways. So focus on you and really just take baby steps. So every time that you feel like I can't handle this, take a baby step forward. Be prepared to put yourself out there. Be prepared to say, I'm not going to accept this anymore. Use language where you own your own power. Body language. I talk a lot about body language in some of my videos. And so use body language to help you to feel more confident and start looking them in the eye and saying no. And when you say no to someone, it's really powerful. I share a video on this and I'd love you to watch that too. So I hope that by sharing my story of how I was bullied, it's helped you to think you don't have to accept this. And, you know, get help, talk to someone. The more you talk to someone, the easier it gets. But I promise it took me till I was 40 something to really come to terms with this. And it's not fun. You know, so the sooner that you start to talk about it and deal with it, the easier it will be for you, I promise. And, you know, if you have been bullied or you feel intimidated by someone in the workplace or at school, then please, I'd love your thoughts and comments below. And please share your tips for overcoming those people that really intimidate and make us feel fearful and afraid. Thank you so much for watching. Much love.